Previously, I have built a TARDIS model. One of the defining characteristics of the TARDIS is that it's bigger on the inside than it is on the outside. Just so that I can show a size reference, I'm going to reach my hand inside. Whoa, that feels weird. I shouldn't be able to do this. I know that it can't possibly be that deep. Let me take another look at it. Well, it looks normal. But it can't really be that deep inside, can it? I better measure the inside. It was less than 5 inches when I built it, but it's like it just keeps going and going. My straight edge is about 2 feet in, and I still can't reach the back. This really can't be right. There must be something else going on. I better look even closer. It still looks normal. I guess it's time to take this thing apart. I'm not seeing anything out of the ordinary, but since I'm taking it apart anyway, I'm going to try to make it look bigger on the inside. This same idea should work with other TARDIS models. I'm going to do this by adding some mirrors and LEDs on the inside. For the mirrors on the inside, there are several options. I'll be showing 2 of them, starting with a piece of polished aluminum. I measure the place on the panel where I want the mirror. I want to be able to see through the windows, so I measure below those. Then I mark and cut 4 pieces out of the aluminum. After cutting, I file down the edges so they aren't as sharp. This can also be done with sanding paper and a sanding block. I removed the windows that I added previously. I'll show my replacement later. I turn this side over so that I can use the front for reference. I'll be using thumbtacks to hold the mirrors in place, and I want them to be lined up with the thicker parts of this side. I mark out where my options are on the mirror. I decide to try using 2 thumbtacks, so I drill a couple 1/16 inch holes in the mirror. For the next mirror, I use the first mirror as a template for drilling the holes. Then, using a larger, sharper drill, I remount the holes by hand. Now I can mount the mirror onto the inside of the panel. Doing this with the doors will be similar. The main difference will be splitting the mirror into 2 pieces. To help prevent light from leaking out, I overlap the mirror from the inner door with the outer door. Once I put the mirrors in place, I test the doors to make sure they still open good. I put these polished aluminum mirrors on all of the sides. I'm going to put my LEDs only on the left and right sides, not the doors or the back. I figure out how many LEDs I need and cut my strip at the proper length. My camera wouldn't focus well enough to see, but since I'm using addressable LEDs, there is an arrow showing me the direction of orientation. At each end of the strips, I'm soldering on 3 pin connectors, making sure the first LED is getting the connector that will connect to my LED controller. I do this with all 4 of the strips. Then, after I decide how I want the directions to flow, I attach them to the sides. Next, I test fit the 4 sides onto the base but as you can see, the wires are all over the place inside. I want the bottom wires to go under the base, so I hold each side in place and mark where I need to make a gap in the base for the wires to pass through. After trimming out a groove for the wires, I pass them through the base and make sure everything lines up. Next, I'm going to show another option for the mirrors. Using a clear piece of plastic, I attach some partially transparent mirror film. I remove the piece of polished aluminum and put this other mirror in its place. Since this is a bit transparent, I made it tall enough to go to the top of the side, even though it covers the windows. As you can see, I've already pre-drilled the holes for the thumbtacks. I also did the same to the doors, but not the sides with the LEDs. For these other two sides, I'm going to cut out a piece of packaging plastic to go over the windows and attach some of that same film to it. Here you can see the difference between the mirror film and the polished aluminum. The aluminum bent a bit when cutting it, and the plastic I used for those windows is very thin, so there is some warping where the thumbtacks are. For the other sides with the full-length plastic, the plastic itself is much thicker and more solid, so there is not much warping at all. I also made a change to the light. Originally I used clear tubing, but I found out that white tubing works much better with LEDs. I also used a much shorter piece of tubing with a piece of reflective tape on the top. This seems to work a bit better with the LED that I used. I used a bit of hot glue to hold this LED in place under the light. Now all of the parts are ready to be reassembled. And here it is. Let's dim the lights so the camera can see the results better. Looking through the windows, you can see the infinity box effect that I was trying for. Opening the door, the effect goes even deeper since it doesn't have to go through the tinted windows. And the light on the top looks awesome. I think that if I had a strip of LEDs go along the floor, that would help the effect. Perhaps I'll add that in the future. Just kidding, I did that also, and here it is. For this size of TARDIS, it worked out pretty good, but I think it would work even better with a full-size TARDIS, and I would love to see that. Feel free to share any versions of your projects with me on social media. My links are in the description.